Wi-Fi is all around us, at home, at work, and across our neighborhoods. So why are some saying it's making them sick? Voters are at the polls deciding on a referendum that could keep them afloat. We have seen an officer stop by this location to check out the structure behind us, and there's a good reason for that. You can actually see the fire that was part of this building start back up.
A handful of people had to be evacuated because of how quickly the waters rushed through here. I'm going to kick it across the surface here, and you get an idea of how warped this pavement is. Do not leave your children inside cars. Do not leave your pets there as well. Fans flew in all the way from Los Angeles to get to tonight's game. The original start time, there's one right there, 7:05. But of course, Mother Nature had a different start time in mind. Right now at 6:30, a violent holiday weekend in Chicago claims the life of a 7-year-old boy. Plus, we're taking a look at some of the 4th of July celebrations held around the area. And what a long, strange trip it's been. The Grateful Dead play their final show at Soldier Field this evening. Good morning to everyone out there. I'm Jeremy Ross alongside Mary Kate Kleiss. Thank you for sharing your morning with us. If you have any coffee to share as well, we could probably use that too. New this morning, a 7-year-old boy returning from a 4th of July celebration is shot and killed in Humboldt Park. Police say he and another victim were standing on the sidewalk near Harding and Thomas just before midnight when shots were fired. The boy was hit in the chest. Paramedics rushed him to Stroger Hospital, where he later died. The other victim, a 26-year-old woman, was also taken to Stroger in stable condition. Police believe the victims were not targeted. So far, no one is in custody. A 14-year-old boy is dead after a fight on Facebook transitions into real-life violence. The Wisconsin teen died after he was shot Friday night. Police say the boy and a group of friends had an argument on Facebook with another group of people over a girl. The two groups met up at a fireworks show. That is when someone fired a barrage of 8 or 9 shots. Police continue to search for suspects. Rescuers in China scrambled to find people trapped during an earthquake, even as the ground was still shaking. Surveillance video shows a group of soldiers running for the door after a 6.5 magnitude quake in far western China Friday. Many arrived at the hardest hit areas within minutes. At least 6 people were killed and dozens more were injured. Take a look at what's going on behind me. These serious flames in the boardwalk in Atlantic City. This fire reportedly broke out at a 4th of July celebration while the boardwalk was lined with visitors. Fortunately, no reports of any injuries. For people who have difficulty making toast, like myself, this is actually a pretty good way to go.
No cooking required.
And of course, both these things are non-fat, right?
Of course, no calories. And fresh strawberry scones, which are my favorite.
I've tried making scones before.
Oh, how did that go?
It did not go well. It did not go well. On Wednesday, Calhoun and 103rd was moving, with the exception Pamela Watkins.
He stopped me for speeding.
She had to pull over.
It's like, oh man, coming down 103rd.
The Chicago firefighter was in uniform, on her way to work, and felt something wasn't right. Separate officer may have felt it too, stopping his squad to talk to her.
I didn't get out until the other officer who pulled up alongside of me gave me permission. That's when the officer behind me got out, his hand on his gun. Get in the car! Get in the car!
You feared for your life?
I did.
Watkins says the verbal abuse.
Get in the car! Get back in the car!
Turned physical.
He's like, this is where the door slanted.
He didn't care that your foot was in the way.
No, and then he did it a second time.
She's wearing bandages rather than a cast. Her heavy work boots lessened the impact.
This is what saved.
Should this cop be on the streets?
No.
She would know. For more than 16 years, Watkins was a Chicago police officer who also pulled over cars.
I work with some really great police officers.
According to the Citizens Police Data Project, the veteran officer in question received at least 17 complaints and was disciplined at least once since 2011.
We all are not bad. We all do not condone this behavior.
This week, Watkins received a ticket, an injured foot, and word her case is under investigation.
IPRA has contacted me.
And a spokeswoman for IPRA confirming tonight there is an independent investigation. That includes a review of video from the stop.
The view is fantastic. The view is of downtown Chicago.
After the rush, a rush hour.
Yeah, always running around, always working through traffic.
Daisy Arashiba settles into his 2-bedroom, 1.5-bath apartment. The comic actor and musician calls this home and home office for,
What, 7 years?
but this year he discovered his nest.
I was at Was that a Falcon?
expanded unexpectedly.
Well, I'm sure you know the Chicago Housing Authority's like, that's not a legal bedroom out there in the balcony.
Part of his 28th floor Lakeview apartment was taken over by a pair of squawky squatters.
When they get together, they become kind of the Bickersons. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, I've been flying around hunting things. What do you got? I got something. I just killed it. You want to eat some? Sure. You know.
Peregrine falcons are a bird of prey traditionally nesting in places like barren cliff faces.
And I happen to have empty window boxes because I'm a terrible gardener.
He branded the birds after famous musicians,
Steve and Linda, because Perry, Steve Perry and Linda Perry.
eventually discovering his new neighbors made more than music.
And there are 4 chicks. There's Luke Perry, Katy Perry, Joe Perry, and because it's Chicago, Refrigerator Perry.
The birds are federally protected, so it is against the law to move the nest. Arshiba has limited access to his balcony for about another month. That's when this feathered family could say farewell.
Chicks that have been born here have ended up as far away as Ecuador.
For now, the hum of traffic is part of the lullaby for 4 newborns. The Windy City providing a perch and one man providing the rent for some temporary tenants.
So there they are. Unfortunately, I'm okay with it.
Jeremy Ross, CBS 2 News. Very little stops the wind's icy advance outside this Bronzeville building.
You can feel the air blowing in on you.
Geneva Taylor says that's also the case inside her basement apartment.
And all these clothes I got on and I'm still not warm.
She adds there's been no heat or gas here for about 2 months, conditions causing concern and prayer.
God, please don't let nothing happen to me and my daughter.
Taylor's daughter Maddie and her brother, who asked not to be on camera, rely in part on a hot plate for both their meals and warmth.
I feel like don't nobody care.
The temperature inside was only 46 degrees.
Pastor Gregory Daggett of Joy of Fellowship Church says 2 of his parishioners called him about the family's crisis. He called on the city.
You called him and you told him he is
Don't
not.
answer.
A building inspector listened as Taylor described her failed efforts to tell her landlord.
He knows you have no heat.
You sure he
Do you have hot water?
None.
Firefighters took her and her family out of the cold conditions. There's no going back to this house, is there?
There is none. In fact, as we speak, it should have already been boarded up.
They were taken to Mercy Hospital as officials worked to find them safe housing. As for what would have happened if others didn't intervene,
You'd have a different story, maybe one with tragedy where people were found frozen to death, and we've seen that before.
we were also unsuccessful in reaching out to the landlord. As for where the family will be living longer term, that's unclear at this time. The pastor says that he will be working with the city and affiliated groups to find them safe housing.